In today's video, I am going to be breaking down Kon Knueppel and how he shoots the basketball. He is one of the better three-point shooters in this year's NBA draft. So let's get down and let's check him out and see what he does well and maybe some of the mistakes that he makes so that you can become a better shooter yourself. Really quickly, if you want to be able to shoot the ball from further away, make sure to go check out the shooting workout that is down in the description below. Okay, so one of the things that I really want to look at first is his foot placement and how everything looks when it comes to being lined up. So obviously he was moving at a high rate of speed towards that left side, and he caught the ball on 2 feet. We can see that right here if we slow it down. Now, because a lot of his momentum is going towards that left side, his body is going to be slightly tilted towards the right just so that he can slow down his momentum, and it does eventually straighten up, as we can see right here. This is something that is normal in a shot when you are traveling at a high rate of speed towards one direction. However, when he's up in his shot after he is off the ground, what we can see is that his shoulders, hips, knees, and feet are all pointing roughly the same direction, however not square to the basket. There's a big misconception saying that every player needs to be completely squared towards the basket, but when in reality it just comes down to your shoulder, elbow, and ball, and if you can get this in line, that is going to be a straight shot. We can also see that his release has his elbow above his forehead, which is going to give him a good amount of arc, and we can see that he may have some kind of a thumb flick because his palm is facing the rim on his guide hand. Now this one, we have a lot of forward momentum this way, which means that his shoulders are going to be naturally back so that he can slow down his progression towards that direction and try to push all of that momentum up into the air. This is something that is natural that most players will have. However, if we look at his gather right there, his gather is roughly right about where his waist is. He's obviously looking at the rim. This is something that is very important. If you are not looking at the rim, if you are looking down at the ball, you are going to have a lower percentage shot. And as the net is over in this direction, he still has a slight tilt because this is going to allow him to get his shoulder, elbow, and ball in line with the basket. This is what I call the shooting triangle. As long as you have the ball over top of your upper arm somewhere, at least a quarter of that ball is over top of your upper arm, shoulder, or your elbow, this is going to be a very straight shot, as long as you release straight. And while this is his set point, there are a few things that we can measure because at this point we just cannot measure his lower body because it's just going to be messy because of the momentum that he had going in that forwards direction. What we can see is that his shoulder is at roughly 90 degrees, 97 degrees. Then his elbow is going to be at roughly about 80 degrees, I would say. Now, there are a lot of shooting coaches who will say that you need to have 90-90-90. So 90 degrees on your shoulder, 90 degrees on your elbow, and they'll also say you need to have 90 degrees on your wrist. This isn't always not necessarily true. Kon Knueppel is a 40% three-point shooter. Could he have a higher shooting percentage if this was 90, this was 90, and this was 90? Maybe, maybe not. What I have found is having a greater angle on your elbow is going to give you just slightly more power, and it's not going to slow down your shot as much as you may think. And having a completely 90-degree wrist is to some people okay, but that is very uncomfortable. And you want your shot to be comfortable for yourself. And then when we look at the actual trajectory of this ball, this is actually not that bad of an angle. It could be better, but if we look at the downwards trajectory of this ball, we can see that it's about roughly 40 degrees. 40 degrees to center, 38 degrees, somewhere in that range. Now, if this ball was going to have a little bit more arc, it would be a little bit better, and potentially in other shots, he would have a higher arc because in this shot, he was leaning backwards because he was trying to take some power away. So a more straightened out shot is actually not something that is unheard of in this situation. However, why I mention a 38-degree drop is because if it's above 46, that is too high of a degree. Above 46, I should have put degree, not percentage, the ball comes in too hard from gravity at the rim, while too low of an angle, the rim looks a lot smaller versus bigger, And by being less than 40 degrees, you have a higher chance of it just bouncing out because the rim looks too small. Now, at least at this angle, when we're going out to this shot, when we're watching this pass out to the shot, we can see that he does have a bit of a bend to his back. It's not completely straight up. Could he have a little bit more power if he hinged his shoulders just a bit more? Yes, but at the same time, this is a quicker release because he has a defender who is closing out to him. So again, when you're in game, you are going to be in different positions all the time. You're not always going to have that perfect degree on your back and perfect degree on your knees. You're going to have to shorten your shot up at some times, which is why you should be running drills with players closing out on you, because your shot with a closeout player is going to be just slightly different. You're going to be shortening up a certain angle of your back. You're going to be shortening up potentially the angle of your knees. You could be shortening up your dip into your shot. You could be shortening up a lot, which is why you need to be practicing with a closeout player. Now, while this is a free throw and this was at practice, it's still good to see his natural shooting form before he has to shorten things up. And this is what I'm talking about. He has about a third of the ball over top of his upper arm / shoulder. His shoulder, as well as his elbow, as well as the ball, is in line in the triangle that I always talk about. It is always in line with the rim. And this is extremely important. He has a little bit of a gap, but not much. Now, if we start extending and going slowly, what we can see is that he does have his shoulder slightly going into his cheek / ear. This is actually a shooting strategy that a lot of coaches will say is after you release the ball or while you're releasing the ball, you bring your shoulder in. It is a strategy. Is it something I teach? Not necessarily. I've maybe only taught it to one player who he was flinging out way to the outside, and it wasn't looking good. And this is the one, though, that was the one player I actually taught this to. Now, when we look at this clip, I actually really like this clip. Now, I'm going to go slow. We can see that it goes up the middle of his body. He does have slightly stronger shoulders, which that's just something that is natural. A lot of players, they just cannot go up the right side. I don't blame them. This is not something I teach out of a player. I would never teach a player to not go up the middle. As long as they're still getting the ball to this side, their shooting side, whether it be left side or right side, don't matter. But if it goes up middle, as long as it gets over top of that shoulder, as we can see, you're pretty much okay. Shoulder, upper arm, elbow, I don't care. As long as it's over something at one of those, you're pretty much all set. And if we look at the thumb flick right here, he does have one. It's releasing at the same time as maybe a millisecond before the actual ball itself. So will it affect his shot? Maybe a little bit. Is it something that I would teach out as a 40% three-point shooter? No. If he dips below 30% in the NBA, maybe. But overall, very good shooter. The only thing I would change is maybe dipping the shoulders just a little bit more. That's all I would change with his shot. Anyways, I hope that this video has helped you become a better shooter. If it has, hit that like button and subscribe. And I will see you guys again in my next video. Make sure to go check out the shooting workout that is down in the description below if you want to be able to shoot the ball from further away.